Every year, I push my body to the limits for a God I don't believe in. Welcome to another episode of the Somber podcast. Today's episode is slightly different. I am not going to be your host. It is going to be my dad.
I am your father.
Yeah, and we are going to be talking about the Malaga processions. Specifically, the procession that I take out. First of all, we will be talking about what a procession is. We'll explain that a bit. We'll clarify it's not the Ku Klux Klan. And then we'll talk about my experiences and get a bit of the inside scoop, as they say nowadays, won't we?
I think so, yeah. First of all, let's talk about what the processions are.
Yeah.
The processions take place during the Semana Santa, the Holy Week, Easter week in most of Spain. Clarify a few points. First of all, the processions are not just a parade. Here in Spain, people take them very seriously. They're a hugely spiritual tradition. They've been going on for over 500 years. And although to the naked eye, they look like just a parade with a lot of people and basically having fun, it's not actually very, very much fun at all. It does celebrate the death of Christ, and it's not to be taken lightly. That's the first thing. Second thing we have to dispel is the capirotes, which are the hats, or what are they called? The cones that the paraders wear on their heads have nothing at all to do with the Ku Klux Klan, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing to symbolize racism or anything like that. In fact, they go way further back than the Ku Klux Klan. So if something, maybe the Ku Klux Klan maybe at some point decided that they looked cool, or to preserve anonymity, which is exactly what the point of these things are. Mm-hmm. Maybe they adopted them, who knows? There's no record of that, but there's absolutely nothing to link them whatsoever historically. So, processions, what are they? They are parades that represent the stages of the Passion of Christ.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Each parade is led by a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. Each brotherhood is linked, not necessarily owned by, but they are linked to a church in Malaga, or in the city that they take place in, and that brotherhood organizes the parade. Now, each procession has two what we call thrones. They're not actually thrones because there's no seats, right? But they are big.
Some of them are, but
some of them do. They're humongous, absolutely humongously heavy and elaborate and ornate.
Floats,
structures. I guess so. Yeah. In most brotherhoods, there's two images. One throne represents
the image of Christ.
The image of Christ in the stage that he's in of his passion. And the other one following behind is a big throne, normally bigger than the Christ one, of the Virgin Mary. Mm-hmm. The Virgin Mary always accompanies her son as she did during his passion, right? Mm-hmm. These thrones are absolutely humongous. They weigh in excess of 5 tons, 5,000 kilos, and they're carried by hand by people like you, right? In Seville and in other cities in Spain, those people that carry the thrones are called the costaleros. Yeah. Because they carry the throne on their backs. You're basically holding the throne. You're underneath, underneath the throne, underneath the structure.
Like a shroud, no?
Covered by shrouds. You can't see the people, and the throne just lifts up, and you're being carried underneath the throne. Yeah. Here in Malaga, the particularity, I don't think it's only specific to Malaga.
No, there's a few other places that do it.
But here in Malaga, what happens is the throne is carried in huge bars, huge metal bars, and there's people carrying the throne on their shoulders. So it's not on the nape of their neck; it's on their shoulders. Yeah. The difference there is twofold. First of all, is that you can see the people carrying the throne because there are the huge bars alongside the throne. And the second thing is the movement of the throne. Because you're carrying it on your shoulder, the movement of the thrones is it sways. It sways from side to side, which is quite graceful, right? Because you're not moving too fast. Yeah. Whereas in the other regions and other cities in Spain, it bobs up and down because you're carrying it on your backs and you can't see you. So basically the throne bobs up and down. And it's not as graceful personally, not just because I live in Malaga, but I think it's just more graceful to see it swaying side by side. It is a very somber festival. It starts off a little bit happier, and it carries on all the way until Easter Sunday, which would be, you're watching this sometime in the future, but it is actually today. So there's maybe 20, 30 processions throughout the whole week.
Maybe a bit more, no?
Maybe a bit more, depending on the city. As the week progresses and Jesus's tribulations get worse, the processions get more and more somber, culminating here in Malaga in the Easter Friday, which is where you come out. And that's when Jesus is already dead. And in your case, your particular procession, the stage that you're representing is when he's been taken down off the cross.
Yeah.
And it's called the Descension, right?
Yeah.
By Easter Friday, the processions are very slow. The music that accompanies them is very somber, very sad. And in your case, the attire that the tunics that the people wear are darker and darker. They get darker throughout the week, right? So anybody that comes here that wants to see a procession and doesn't want to be surrounded by death and sadness should come on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday, because those processions are not happy, but they're a bit more jovial. You have the military parades. Etc. Right? And there's millions of people that take place in this. There's a lot of little nuances to every single procession.
Every single thing, honestly, that happens, isn't there?
Exactly. There's a reason. Every candle, every shroud, the colors of the tunics, the length of the capirote. Some people wear the cone, some people don't wear the cone. Everything has a history to it. Everything has a reason for it. Every little church has its little nuances. The thrones are designed and sculpted by very, very famous artists and sculptors that dedicate years and years to analyzing what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. Symbolism is everywhere. If you see it from outside, it doesn't look like it's very respectful of the religion. But if you're actually in the middle of the crowd watching it, you can see that the crowd is actually incredibly devoted to what they're doing. They're, in fact, if you talk too much, they get really angry. They get pissed off at you because you're supposed to be you're supposed to be watching the procession pass in awe and in respect, right?
Yeah.
So it's good. It's not bad. It's you got to be there. You got to be there. So now, you, my child.
Yes.
You have not been raised a Catholic.
I have not.
Although I'm a Catholic, I was never into processions. I know I've never liked the Easter week, mostly because when I was younger, I lived right in the center of Malaga, in a street that saw every single procession pass by. Yeah. So I was kept awake from 7 in the afternoon till 2 in the morning every night, just hearing these parades. And as a teenager, it didn't really mean much to me, so I ended up not liking them. However, since you started doing it, I've come to appreciate a little bit more of what goes into it. Oh,
and just a little add-on is each procession has a band that accompanies it. That's why you say you couldn't sleep, because even though we just said that people are quiet, so it kind of sounds counterintuitive, is because there's either music playing with a whole band that follows us. Or the drums are playing a beat. That we can follow the rhythm to.
There's 2 images, one of the Virgin, one of the Christ,
and each one has their own band.
Each one has their own band following them, and the band and the music and the drums are the ones that mark the cadence and the pace at which the throne is going to move.
Yeah, exactly.
So you weren't raised a Catholic, and yet every single year for the last 3 years, this has been your third year, you are underneath the throne, and for 8 hours, because that's the other thing, these processions last anywhere between 8 and 10 hours, you do it.
Yes, I do.
All right, so tell us a little bit of why you started doing this, and especially why you continue doing it.
Yeah, well, I started because my best friend Raul, a few years ago, it was his second year. The thing about our throne is it's one of the smaller ones and one of the least popular ones in Malaga. Yeah. So normally what happens is every year we kind of need to just start bringing in people just to fill up the amount of people that carry the throne. And that specific year I was one of them. Raul asked me if I wanted to do it, and I thought about it and I agreed to it because it's something that, especially in Spain, is very big, and it's very niche for someone to actually do it. It's very popular for people to go and see it, for people to participate, but it's not very popular for people to actually carry the throne. So I just said, let's do it. Let's experience it. Let's find out what it actually is like.
Exactly. Yeah.
How bad it can be. And
I'm just gonna say that, point out that the carrying the throne here is considered a privilege.
Yeah.
As you say, there's a lot of people under each throne, but there's a limited amount of places in each. So actually doing it is quite a quite a privilege. There might be 150 to 150 of you guys underneath the throne, but in a whole procession, there might be maybe in the big ones you might have 1,000, 1,500 people,
maybe
right?
More.
So being one of the 150 chosen to carry the throne is considered a privilege.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I decided to do it, decided to test it out, see if I liked it. I knew it was going to be very hard. I knew it wasn't going to be something easy. But I said, you know what? Let's do it for at least 1 year, see what it's like. If I like it, then I can do it again. If I don't, then at least I have the experience of having to do it, of having been doing it, and I guess say that I've done it, you know? Right. Just experience it from the inside and yeah.
That was your first year, and you clearly liked it because you've repeated. You've done it twice since.
Yeah.
And
well, I wouldn't. Liking isn't the word that I would say that I would use to describe it. To be honest, it's a very weird feeling. You know, we kind of discussed this throughout this week, but the closest thing I could bring it to is like running a marathon. You know. Yeah. You don't like it, but you do at the same time. It's kind of like a challenge for me. It's Well,
I wanted to ask you because the reason why most people that are under the throne do it is as a form of penance.
Yeah.
Right. They're religious people, and carrying the throne and the Catholic idea of suffering for your sins is still around, and that's why they do it. They take those 8 hours of pain to, I suppose, to ask for forgiveness. You, however, are not Catholic.
No.
You've never prayed in your life. You don't really know the meaning of prayer. And yet, I mean, do you feel anything like that while you're underneath the throne, while you're sitting there thinking and bearing that pain? Or you're just saying like, man, I hate this?
Not really. I mean, during the whole thing, I don't really feel anything connected to God, to be honest, because I haven't experienced anything like that yet. When I'm doing it, I'm kind of just focused on, when there's music playing, I'm focused on the music, because the band that follows us is very good, thankfully.
They are really good, actually.
And
really good.
They are very talented musicians. The songs that they play some of them are very beautiful. So when they're playing, I just try to focus on those and try to enjoy the music and enjoy the moment, I guess.
Yeah.
And other times it's just focusing on trying not to stop, I guess, you know?
Well, do you ever feel like you can't go on?
Yeah, there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, please let us take a break here. Because like, I can tell that we're all dying right now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we do have to point out again, you see, we're missing things. The people that are watching are thinking like, you've been carrying something for 8 hours. First of all, you do take breaks.
Yeah,
it's like every 20, 30 meters, there's a break, depending on the streets, because obviously you're parading throughout the streets of Malaga.
Exactly.
They're not always flat. Sometimes you got quite pronounced hills. And these things weigh anywhere, depending on the size. You guys will have one of the smallest ones, but it's
yeah. I think ours is between like around 3,500 kilos.
Exactly. That's one of the smaller ones. You can get them that weigh anywhere between 5,000 and 7,000 kilos. Yeah. And on average, each one of the throne bearers, you're carrying anywhere between 30 and 45 kilos on your shoulder.
More or less.
On the same shoulder for the whole night, right? That is no easy feat. That's terrible pain. I'll show a photograph around here of your shoulder on the night it finished.
Yeah.
And now it's a little bit better. It still hurts, right?
Yeah, it still hurts.
So for me, it's quite amazing, the fact. I mean, I've run a couple of marathons in my life, so I do get that. I do get the fact that you're within the pain. You end up being in the zone at one point, and their only way to forget the pain is to get in the zone and try to think of something else. And that actually normally brings some sort of cathartic experience in your mind. You know, you start thinking of whatever it is you're thinking, and eventually you somehow end up being a better person, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that happens to you, but from a non-Catholic's point of view, it must be hard, because the Catholics have they have that motivation, right? They will get what they get something out of it is the spiritual journey that goes with it, and hopefully the forgiveness of their sins or whatever it is. I always admire the fact that you've been doing it for 3 years with none of that. You're just doing it for the hell of it.
I guess. Yeah, like I say, I don't know. I kind of see it like a challenge, you know? It's something that I can push myself to the limits. It's something that if I was doing it every week, then maybe I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but it's once a year.
But it's once a year, you know? It's a very hard day or hard 8 hours, you know? But this year I did get very excited for it. I was really looking forward to doing it. Right now I'm doing it next year.
Right.
I don't know how long I'll be doing it for. Hopefully for quite a few more years. Yeah. You never know. Maybe.
Fascinating. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know.
So tell us about the human element. Right? There's 150 of you down there, or
I think this
200.
year there was 147 of us.
147, right? From what I understand, you're not encouraged to make friends because you're not there to make friends. You're not there to talk or to chit chat now. And it's a journey of introspection, right? You're not really meant to talk. Is that the case?
During breaks, we are talking. We are getting to know each other. I mean, at the end of the day, we're next to each other for 8 hours, you know? So we are getting to know the people that you do get to know the people around you. You kind of talk to them during the breaks. But it is true that in some specific sections of the procession, the organizers, they do tell us to be quiet because there's a moment where we go through the Cathedral of Malaga. Yeah. And there they do say, during this part, we have to be quiet, we can't talk, we have to pay respects. But generally, they don't mind. We also look out for one another, you know. Whenever we're taking the throne, we ask each other how we're doing.
So there's that sort of camaraderie.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So let's move on to. There's really only a small portion of that journey that's actually the official path that you have to follow, right? And that the official route is starting in Calle Larios, and then you go down through the whole park, and then you end up in the cathedral, and there you actually go into the cathedral. There you because I've never been there, so I've never followed you in there. There you pray or something. You stop.
Yeah, so there they normally sing a song. There's a choir there that sings a song. Right. Then there's a prayer that goes on. Funnily enough, this year was slightly different to last year. Last year there was a priest that came up and did a prayer and everyone was praying. Right. This year, maybe I just didn't pay attention.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure this year that didn't happen. And then we continue through. We stop again just before leaving the cathedral. They sing another song and then we leave. We exit the cathedral.
You're back home. Yeah.
Exactly.
And of course, the final length of your whole journey is dependent on how far away you are from Calle Larios and the cathedral, right? Exactly. So you're relatively close because you're a very privileged position because you're one of the oldest brotherhoods and you're actually right next to the Malaga bull ring, which is a beautiful location. So you're right there and you're not too far away. So your journey only takes you 8 hours. I think the longest one, which is right on the other side of Malaga, it takes them 12 hours to get there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
I don't know how they do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing it for 4 more hours, to be honest. Well, but anyways.
Yeah. And then because you're all the idea of the throne's this big structure, but it has to be level. It can't be like at angles or weird angles. It tends to sag in the middle. Yeah, right,
which means the weight of the actual throne is.
Right, which means that you all have to be very, very carefully measured in order to be placed in the throne somewhere, and A, to be placed in the throne somewhere, and B, to be given your tunic. You can't just wear what you want. You have to wear your own official tunic. Exactly. In your case, it's black with a belt, right? With a straw belt. If you're a part of the Brotherhood, then you have a medal as well. You can have a medal, right? Which that you can put on top, and you also have the logo of the. Yeah, because you're not officially part of the Brotherhood. Not this year. Next year I will be. But you want to be, right? And once you do, you get your logo and you get your. Well, you already have the logo, but you get a medal. A medal, right? That you can put around. Cool. And so you get measured, and according to your height, you get placed in some part of the of the throne. There's people all over the throne, although the visible ones are where you are outside, but there's people underneath the throne as well, and those you can't see, right? Do they have to wear the same tunic, or can they wear? No, they normally
they all wear the same. It's just a graphic T-shirt
Right.
that normally shows that they've done the.
Right.
They were part of the throne of whatever year and stuff.
And I see they're smaller and stockier, right? They're like bigger. Is that because they carry more weight, or?
It's because they're right underneath, so it's the lowest part of the throne. So normally they have to be shorter than
You guys.
than people. Yeah. So like you said, the bars, seeing as the throne doesn't cover all the bars, it's more like in the middle, and there's protruding bits of the bars.
Yeah.
Seeing as it's in the middle, they're more beams instead of bars, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
The beams they sag towards the middle.
Yeah.
So the taller you are, the further towards the outside or towards the ends you are. So this year, funnily enough, I have to, or for next year, they're gonna have to measure my height again, because I started in beam E, position 7. But when I got there, I was 4 centimeters taller than the 2 people in front of me.
Right.
So before we even started, I got pushed all the way up to E4.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because you get taller, so you have to be pushed
Exactly.
forward. And also from what you told me, if you are a member of the Brotherhood, which of course being Catholic basically means you have to pay a fee, right? It's not that you have to be a Catholic as such, right? As long as you pay your fee. I mean, you should be a Catholic, but they're not going to ask you, right?
It's probably that they assume you're a Catholic.
They assume you're a Catholic, right? So, but for the record, you are a Catholic, in case anyone's watching this, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a little privilege, which is that you're in the actual outside of one of the outside beams of the.
Yeah, so you'll be prioritized. They prioritize the brothers first. The longer you've been a brother, the more priority you have, so you'll be put outside. If you're not a brother, then it depends on how long you've been taking out the throne for.
Right.
So this year, there was actually quite a lot of people that were on the outside, weren't brothers, but they've just been doing it for quite a few years, so they were put on the outside.
A little privilege, right? Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Right, so tell us about the actual experience itself, because obviously for 8 hours, you're roaming the streets of Malaga in a very privileged position, so obviously they clear the traffic for you guys, and you have thousands of people sitting there watching you. What is your favorite part and least favorite part of the whole thing?
My favorite part, I think my favorite part, last year my favorite part was going down Calle Larios, because the song that they play there is the Stabat Mater, right. And that's kind of like the staple song for the Brotherhood.
Okay.
And it's a very, very beautiful piece, and I really enjoy it, and it's a very emotional part of the journey of the procession. But this year, it was a very particular year because there was a lot of new people and a lot of young people. So this year, that part, sadly, it was a bit janky, kind of. My favorite part is maybe, I would say, probably still that, even though it wasn't as good as last year's.
And least favorite part? I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, the least favorite part is the running up, not running, but the ramp up to the cathedral.
Yeah, that is torture. And when I saw it yesterday, because like maybe 20-30 meters worth of uphill, that's and when you stop, you're actually stopping uphill, which is probably not good either. That's crazy.
It's hard. So to give people context, is the entrance to the cathedrals, all of the entrances are stairs. So for the Holy Week, they build a ramp so we can actually get up, because we're not going to be able to go upstairs. That's going to be impossible. Mostly because it's very hard, and B, everyone's so close together, you can't actually see what you're stepping on. So most of the time, you know a step is coming because
the guy next to you falls.
Yeah, well, because the person in front will say it, and then it'll just get, be like pushed backwards, Yeah. And this ramp is probably the steepest ramp I've seen in my life. It's quite steep. I'm exaggerating a bit, but it definitely does feel like that when you're going up it. It's relatively steep, and it's quite long as well. So, this is, I'd probably say this is like 6 hours into the procession.
Exactly. I think that's the key. It's not, if it was the very first thing you did when you're nice and fresh, then it'd be one thing. But this is like 6.5 hours into it. You still have 2 hours to go. You've been at it for 6.5 hours, and then tired. You find this huge ramp up there. It's crazy.
And it's a very tricky maneuver because it's not particularly wide either. We just barely fit, to be honest, I'm pretty sure. So when you start going up, seeing as it's quite steep, we have to take relatively like quite small steps. We're kind of like shuffling along, and we're just trying to push up as much as we can. Of course, seeing as we're all packed together, we'll have to take the same step. So, you know, and there's no, or actually, I don't really, are they playing music when we're going over there? They are. Oh, you see, I zone out. I don't even hear the music. But we don't listen to the music in that case to keep the cadence because it's impossible. And once we finally reach to the top, there's a perfect 90-degree turn, which we have to do straight away. And then once after that, before we get into the cathedral, we stop because the throne is too wide for the doors. So what this means is when we're going through the doors of the cathedral, the people that are on the outside that are taking out the throne have to remove themselves so we can actually get through the door, which means that when we're going through the door,
so the throne, it's not that the throne's too wide for the doors, the throne's too wide for the doors with the people carrying it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay. Well, it's better said the throne just fits through the door.
Which obviously means that's 50 kilos per person. That means that you're suddenly carrying, instead of 35, 40 kilos, you're carrying 50, 60 kilos.
Exactly.
For that bit, yeah.
Which, when it's 6 hours in and after just doing the hardest maneuver of the of the whole parade or the whole procession, you can notice it quite a bit.
But the people help you, right? I mean, the audience, the crowds, they cheer and they help you when you're coming up to one of those, you know.
Yeah, generally. This year they don't really cheer that much. This year last year they cheered a lot more. This year they were a lot more silent. There was a couple times where they did cheer, which was appreciated. But this year it didn't catch me off guard, but I was surprised that they didn't cheer as much as last year.
Oh, fair enough. And now tell us about you're talking about baby steps and turning and things like that. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the direction. How do you know where to go, and how do you know at what pace to move?
Yeah.
How do you turn? When do you turn? I mean, I know, but tell our audience. How's that work? How's it go? So,
with the pace and the rhythm, that's determined by the band and the rhythm of the songs and the rhythm of the drums.
The drums. Sometimes there's no music; it's just drums, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just a drum beat that's going doom, doom.
And that's
doom.
One step per hit.
Yeah. So each hit is a step. In terms of direction, we do have organizers in Spanish they're called capataces, and they are the ones that tell us when to take a wide step right or when to continue going forward. Well, if we're just going forward, they won't say anything. But if we have to go right, if we have to go left, they'll tell us.
So they tell you in words, like take a step left.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're the guys that they have their tunic, but their faces are also covered.
Exactly. Everyone's face is covered apart from the band and us. We don't have our faces covered. So at the front of the throne, there's a bell which is hit, and that is to tell us when to stop moving, when to put the throne down, and when to put the throne up. That doesn't actually tell us which way to go.
Right.
It's just by mouth. So if we're already moving and they hit two bells, it's for us to stop completely.
Yeah.
Then they hit the bell again after a few seconds after we've stopped and settled, and we settle the throne down. To pick it up, they'll hit the bell twice. And this will tell us to crouch down and put our shoulder underneath. And when they hit the bell again, then we all lift up together and we'll continue.
All right. And you continue straight away, or you have to wait until they hit it again before?
No, then you'll wait for 4 beats of the drum. Right. And on the fourth one, you start with the left leg and you'll step off and then continue.
Okay, and now finally, because this is getting quite long now, what I see from the ground, right? Because obviously you're my son, and I have to be there with you, so I do the whole 8 hours. I never thought I would, but here I am. I'm doing the whole 8-hour parade with you. For me, the most impressive thing is the exit and the return. So for those people that don't know, these thrones come out one day a year. Mm-hmm. The rest of the year, they're kept in I would call it hangar for a better word, right? So each church, either next to the church or adjacent to the church or close to the church at some point, some of them are actually quite far away. Yeah. They have a big hangar where they keep these thrones.
Exactly.
In most cases, there's not much real estate in the sense that the church might be absolutely huge, but the hangars are just enough to fit the throne in without people, right? Which is something that blows my mind, seeing as these churches are huge. Some of them have a lot of money. Why they can't build a doorway that's 15 centimeters on each side, a little bit bigger, is beyond me. But the bottom line is that the throne just fits without people, which means, again, just like in the cathedral, when you bring it out and put it back in, most of the people that are carrying it on the outside can't be there because they just don't
they
fit,
have to remove themselves.
Not only that, I've seen that you can't carry it on your shoulders because the total height of the throne is much higher than the
top of the roof
and the threshold
of the door.
Of the door, which means that you actually have to lower it as well, which you can't. You can't. Tell us about that. What's the deal there?
So to bring it out and to put it in, we have to carry instead of putting it on our shoulders, we have to carry it by our arms. So we'll have to, physically put the bars across our arms and carry it out. Not only that, like you said, the outside row, they don't fit through the door if they're carrying it. So that means they have to wait outside for us to be completely out, and then they can come back in and help us. As you can tell, that is extremely hard because, you're lifting 50, 60 kilos like this.
While moving.
And there's just barely enough space when we're in front of each other. So when we're side by side, there's not enough space. So you're also being crushed from the other people next to you.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And not only that, you have to do it in a perfectly straight line because if you angle the throne, it deviates, you're gonna hit the threshold.
Exactly.
And you're gonna scratch the whole thing. And these are incredibly expensive structures.
Yeah. And then right after that, we have to put it on our shoulders directly.
Right, so you don't stop.
Yeah. Which that is also a very awkward maneuver as well, to be honest.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then on the way back, you do the same thing in reverse. So you actually reverse the throne back into the hanger. And what I find quite amazing is that the people that are carrying it on the outside, again, they don't fit. They can't go through the threshold. So they have to get out of the way just as they're about to hit the threshold. And this year I saw a couple of people, you can either go underneath the throne or you can just stay outside, and some of them almost didn't make it and got crushed by the accordion into the wall. It's quite crazy.
Yeah, that's also a very hard maneuver. It's also very tiring because we have to wait for the Virgin to catch up, and then we can do a sort of dance together. Yeah. And at this point, seeing as we have to kind of reverse the throne into the hanger, so to get it into position, we actually have to change shoulder, and that surprisingly is very painful because after 8 hours, this shoulder, it hurts, but the initial pain is you're kind of numb to it. There is strain, and it does physically hurt your body, but I guess the best way to describe it is the pinching sensation on your skin. Right. You don't notice it anymore. Yeah. Whereas when you turn, you do notice it all comes back. So you're starting from zero again, except for this time, your hips are hurting, your knees are hurting, the bottom of your feet are hurting, you're tired, you just want to go. Yeah. And you have to wait and do this dance with the Virgin. Yeah, and then, like you said, we have to put it back in and hold it like this. And this year, I don't know why it seemed like we had to be a lot lower than last year, where actually I was holding like this and crouched down to not hit the top of the doorway.
It's crazy. It's crazy. As a parent, I kind of suffered for you because it does. It's an 8-hour journey throughout the city, but once you get there, it's not just like, okay, we're here, put it away and go. You have to do that. It's very emotional.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, man, after 8.5 hours, you have to sit there, you have to hold it on your shoulders, sway for 3-4 minutes because these songs take a while, and then wait for the Virgin to go in, and then you go in, and it's crazy. So it's an 8-hour journey, but the final bit is another 1.5 hours or so of just staying there. But anyway, I guess it's worth it. Well, all I can say is, as your father, I am very proud of you for doing it. I really admire the fact that you, as a non-Catholic, have the stamina and the will to do it every year after year. I'm glad it means something to you, as these things should. And I'm also a little bit happy that I've actually re-encountered, that I've found my peace with the processions, because for many years I refused to go because I thought I was looking at them the wrong way.
Yeah.
There is devotion going on there. I thought it was a bit of a farce, and I always thought there were a little bit of a lack of respect towards the somberness of the death of Christ. But I see now that it's not, especially this one. The Friday ones are very, very somber. They're very sad. People are devoted. You see people crying in the streets.
Yeah, definitely.
You see people that are seriously touched by the whole thing. So it's nice. It's
actually, I just remembered one of the moments. I want to change my favorite moment answer. Right. Was before one of the stretches that we continued walking, there was a young woman that came, and the main foreman that kind of talked to us and lets us know what we're going to do, he told us that, which at that moment I didn't know, but it was actually his daughter as well, right, that this girl's grandmother had recently died, and that she was in a period of grief, and that we had to kind of do this for her and for her grandmother and for all of the people that had died and that were in heaven. And I thought that was quite... That's nice. Yeah. And then later on they sent the video, and the foreman said that it was her daughter. It was, sorry, his daughter. And that was quite... At that moment, that was quite a good thing to do, you know.
It's a good.
And you could see that she was very emotional about it, and she was the one that hit the hammers and, hit the bell with the hammer, and made us lift up and continue and go.
All right, so that is in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a very big nutshell. But and the thing is, we've been talking for a while now, and there's still a lot of more things to talk about and a lot more anecdotes that I could mention.
Yeah, we could make a whole program out of
we could do another 5-part series probably
about everything. But it's worth, for anybody that is planning to come to Malaga, that's never seen these processions, that's planning to come and see them. I would encourage anybody to do a little bit of research before. So you know what you're walking into, because it does make a difference. It's not just seeing a huge throne walking by and people following it. There's a lot more to it, and every single procession has a huge history. Some of them have been around for centuries, and it's worth looking into, because it's a nice tradition, whether you believe it or not, but whether you think it's a little bit too ostentatious for what the Catholic ethos should be. That's something else, but it's worth looking into.
Definitely.
In the big ones, in Malaga, Seville, obviously every town has their own little ones, and maybe
every single town.
We all have them. Here in Arroyo, where we live, it's a small town, so we have them. They're very, very tiny, and they're almost, well, I wouldn't say funny, because people do take it seriously, but compared to the ones in the big cities, they are almost, jokingly funny, small. But people do take it seriously, and it's worth looking into if you're coming for a holiday. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for taking us on a journey with you.
Thank you for having me, because you're the host of this episode, so thank you for having me.
It is my episode. Thank you very much for watching. Comment, subscribe, like, and come back next week, because we do need you, man. There's very few of you. We need more. We need more people. Just come over. Come over and join us, for Christ's sakes.
Definitely.
All right, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye-bye.